Hey guys, and welcome to another Sasquatch Theory podcast interview. On today's show, we have Carol from Alaska. Carol has been experiencing Bigfoot activity for most of her life. She claims the hairy man has been harassing her at her cabin for a long time now, and she just wants them to go away. She has found solid tracks on her property, and whenever she goes outside, she will sometimes hear wood knocks and whistles. She also claims to see strange lights out in the forest known as orbs, and I feel like it is connected with the Sasquatch activity in some way, shape, or form. Fred and his friend Ryan were able to meet up with Carol at her property. They both mentioned seeing these orbs for themselves. They got this dark, ominous feeling like something wasn't right, and they were hesitant in pursuing the orbs any further. This past year, I made a trip up to Alaska and met up with Fred and Ryan and spoke to them about Carol's property and the strange events that have been taking place there. I never hear any positive encounters from Alaska, and I feel like the hairy people are not to be messed with in that area because they are more elusive and they live in harsher conditions than in the lower 48. Most grizzly bears and predators in general have been eradicated here in the lower states, and just like people, we don't really think about that when we venture into the forest. In Alaska, that's the first thing you think about when you plan a trip into the wilderness. I am sure it's the same with the hairy people, and they are more on edge because it's harder to survive up there. Keep in mind, it took me a long time to get Carol on the show, and she was very nervous and hesitant to share her experiences with everyone. So please show your respect in the comments, and I hope you guys give her your full attention and stick around until the end. Alright guys, let's dive into our next Bigfoot encounter from the state of Alaska. Alright, before we begin the interview, let's go over some of the evidence that Carol decided to share with all of us. On her Blink camera, she was able to capture the orbs just floating around her property, and she has witnessed this with her own eyes. I've seen it before, and I've talked to many guests in the past who have seen these strange lights where they have experienced Bigfoot activity. You can definitely tell it's too big to be a firefly, and we are in Alaska, guys. A lot of people say that it's swamp gas, but there's not a swamp around here. You can tell this thing is moving around freely, and it seems to have an intelligence to it. I've been witness to these strange lights several times in areas that I've had Bigfoot encounters and experiences in, and I've talked to many people who have seen the Sasquatch, who have seen the strange lights as well. What do you guys think they are? Let me know down in the comments below. Carol has also found the hairy man tracks on her property, and she was able to document them. This is a photo of a Sasquatch that she's seen one day, and it's too far away and too blurry for me to tell, but I believe her. She was there and she took the photos. Here are some more tracks that she found on the property after experiencing Bigfoot activity and going out and looking for any evidence. All right, Carol, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Miguel?
That's good to hear. I'm doing excellent. Just did a little bit of hunting out in the woods. Thank you so much for asking. Carol, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your Bigfoot encounters and experiences from the very beginning, please.
This is Carol. I grew up in Arkansas, southeast corner of Arkansas. And my family came to Alaska in 1966. But I'm going to skip ahead to the summer of 2022. I had spent part of the winter in North Pole, Alaska, but was ready to get back home. And getting back, things went along normal for a while. My husband had passed away in 2019, and some strange things had happened about a year before he passed. But we just ignored it, except there was one night we were watching TV, and we heard an owl and a raven making noises like they were talking. We told someone in the family about it, and they said it was bad. It could be an evil spirit. So, at different times, we heard things thrown on the roof. And one night we heard what we thought was a horse running around the house. And my husband called his brother and told him he thought the horses were out of the corral. Well, come to find out the horses wasn't out of the corral. So we just brushed it off. But it was some heavy footfalls that we didn't understand. We continued hearing things thrown on the roof, and he would go out at night and couldn't see anything, so we pretty much ignored it. Now, my husband had died, so I had been staying with my daughter some in North Pole. But to get on with it, I came back to my cabin here in Alaska, 300 miles from North Pole. And in the summer of 22, there was rocks thrown on the roof at night, mostly. Now, these things didn't happen like every night. Strange noises like gravel being thrown at the door while I was watching TV. I had a gun, and I thought it might be a person messing around. But I had seen a Bigfoot before, and so I just turned it to some Bigfoot shows and began to think maybe that's what it was. After all, I saw one, so I knew they existed. I had knocks on the house in the back where there was no windows. I had my truck parked back there because it was muddy. And I went out to my truck one morning, and there was 18-inch tracks about 4.5 inches wide. And it was very, very quiet. So I just got my truck and took a drive. The tracks were crazy, but as I got home and started walking around, it felt eerie. And so in a couple of weeks, my daughter called after hearing about my problems, and they asked me to come visit her in Idaho. So I went to Idaho for about a month. And can you hear me okay, Miguel?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Take your time, and you're doing a really good job, Carol.
Okay, so um, I stayed in North Pole that winter, but I wanted to come home. And in the spring of 2023 is when the harassment got worse. Uh, it was, like I say, 300 miles from my family. The snow in my road to my cabin or house. Some people would call it a house, some people call it a cabin. And they loaded my stuff and got the heater going. And I decided to find some Bigfoot information on the internet, on YouTube. And I found Miguel on Sasquatch theory. I had seen some of his videos, and he was in the lower 48, which we call it up here in Alaska, the lower 48 states. But he knew someone up here in Alaska that had a channel on YouTube, Sublike Alaska Sasquatch, with Fred Roll. Well, I called Fred, and he said him and Ryan would come out, and which really I didn't think they would, but they showed up at my house the day before Easter. I told Fred and Ryan what'd been going on. I told him just a couple of days before they arrived, I was making coffee and there was a whistle through the vent above my stove. Well, they checked out tracks, but the snow was really deep and there had been moose around. And, you know, they couldn't really tell anything. So Fred plugged in a light for me out front, and that helped. That would be nice. So they slept here, and we discussed things about Bigfoot, and I realized it was Bigfoot that was harassing me. And I listened to Ryan's encounter and Fred's, and it was really eye-opening. Fred said they would return after the snow melted, and it was better weather, and so they waited, and so upon coming back, I'll skip to that. After the snow melted, it got worse. After the snow melted, I drove in, unloaded my groceries, and rested up a few days. I felt ready about the snow being gone, and really wanted to clean up around the front of my house, which there hadn't been any work done since my husband died. So I was raking up small leaves and throwing the sun, and heard a sharp whistle, sharp and clear. Well, I had heard about Bigfoot whistling, so I froze for a minute, looking all around. Nothing, I could see nothing, but I picked up my shotgun and went in the house. I still thought it might be a human. I didn't know. I stayed inside and made some food, and that night was quiet, but I did a lot of thinking and decided nothing or nobody was going to ruin my summer. I did a lot of work around the house. But when I went outside, I took the shotgun and my pistol because I had heard Bigfoot knew what a gun was, just surmising from then on. I wore the pistol. I was still cold, and it was strange. It was still cold, not real cold, maybe 40. I was still cold, so I looked around the close, large spruce trees and picked up some sticks to burn in the heater. Some were too long, so I banged them on the tree brick and got wood knock. So that wasn't anything I wanted to hear. It sounded far away. And then an answer knock came from, it sounded like a mile away on the left. So what was it? I had heard a Bigfoot making knocks, and this wasn't good. Okay. In a few days, I decided to clean up my storage cabin and burn some stuff that I no longer used. And I had been at it a couple of hours, taking breaks, sitting at my camp trailer. And I had some coffee in a thermos and I drank some of that. But it was very, very quiet. No birds. And my squirrels, I couldn't hear any squirrels. And I had a lot of squirrels. I stood up and headed to the cooler to get some water. And I heard another wood knock. Well, excuse my language, shit, it seemed to be a Bigfoot. I walked towards the outhouse and saw something brown, about 30 feet tall, just brown, no head. I was too close, so I backed up. I couldn't tell what it was, but I got chills, and I just stood there instead of running. I wanted to run, but I just stood there. It was eerie. Like the very air was just still and quiet. You know, I don't know what the brown thing was. It looked like a stump with any stumps. And I knew what was in the immediate aspen trees. So I froze. The fire was going, but in the safe spot. So I dropped the shovel, picked up the shotgun again, and retreated into my house. I didn't want to leave. I could feel that my blood pressure was maybe going up. It was not good. I sat in my chair for a while. Got cleaned up. I was in a chair in my house. I was in the house. I went out and got in a car and went for a drive. I didn't have a dog then. And at this point, I was aware, but not absolutely scared out of my wits. Yet, however, I knew something was watching me when I was cleaning that cabin. I felt it, and I thought it was somebody still. I took my things in the house and stayed. The next day, I closed up the cabin. I wasn't quite finished cleaning, but I would save it for later. Now I was looking, around me the whole time I was outside. I still stay outside doing work, but took drives, and then things quieted down. Then I decided it's too pretty to stay outdoors, and I'm not going to let anything run me off. So I went outside in my fire pit and built a small fire, roasted some hot dogs. But my appetite had come back, which I didn't have an appetite. I was still hungry, so I went in the house and made some macaroni and cheese and went back out. I put my chair up against the car. As I was eating, something was thrown and landed on the opposite side of the car. Well, I didn't know. It was so back, and I went back in the house. A few days went by. I stayed in the house, and one night, someone or something started beating on my house. It was right beside the wall where my bed was. I was tired of being harassed, so I opened the door and shot my pistol up in the trees. And it stopped. I stayed awake most of the night. These occurrences didn't happen every night or day, but I'm covering what happened at the moment. My life had changed. I was always on the alert. It was not good for blood pressure. Skipping ahead for a while. I'm writing down a few notes so I don't forget anything.
Oh, you're fine, Carol.
I was talking to my brother on the phone. He lives in the Philippines. And when I got him on my phone, I wanted to tell him what was going on. And he was very interesting as he had seen a Bigfoot also. He believed me. I was talking to my brother standing in the living room by the window because I got better phone reception there. I was looking out towards the aspen and spruce. I saw something big and dark colored. It had to be 8 feet tall or more. And I told my brother, I think I see a Bigfoot at the edge of the trees. So I'd step out, and I just threw the phone down and grabbed my little camera. My family during all this was very skeptical. I had 2 family members that believed me, but I didn't have any proof. And I didn't care about the danger. I just headed out the door and walked out with my little camera. I laid my phone down and kept my brother on the phone. It turned and went to its right and headed back in the woods. I just held the camera up high and it snapped a shot, hoping I got it. Well, I did, but it was heading back in the trees. Not a good picture, but proof for me. That was a dumb thing to do, but I got some kind of proof. My brother was still on my phone, so I took a picture of my camera with the phone and sent it to him. Well, that upset him. He didn't think I should be here. And but I did have proof. It wasn't a good picture, but at least they would believe me. Now I knew it was for certain a Bigfoot, so I called Fred from subarctic Alaska Sasquatch. He said him and Ryan were coming out soon as they could get time. Okay, in a couple of days, I went out to my car and something made a strange call in the trees. No sound I'd ever heard before. It was like a screech, like I had lived in Arkansas, so I knew what a screech out sounded like, but it was huge, mixed with a growl. And no possible way I can describe it. My papers written around. So meanwhile, Fred told me they were coming out. So they showed up on July 2nd, and it went to the back of the property where they found some green saplings bent over an eggs. They weren't broken. Strange. We went out to Liberty Falls and got some beautiful video. And that night, Fred and Ryan took a drive to McCarthy and got back the next morning early. So we're skipping ahead like a few hours. Ryan had brought some steaks he cooked on the grill later that day. At this point, I'm just telling what happened. It was around, I thought, midnight. They said it was earlier. We were sitting in the dining room talking about hairy man experiences they had both had. We could see out the front window in the living room, and I was sitting in a chair in the dining room. I told Fred and Ryan I could see a light, and they jumped up and they couldn't see it. And I said, "Well, sit in my chair, Fred." And he did, and he saw it, and they grabbed their guns and went outside. The light was dancing around in the woods. It was kind of a salmon color. And Ryan told Fred he probably shouldn't come in the house. We had no words to explain it. I think we had some coffee and talked it over and got some sleep. The next morning, I made breakfast and they said goodbye and headed back to Los Angeles. I wasn't going to leave. It was the 4th of July. The sun was out. I took a short drive. I called my daughters and told them about the events. They left us really puzzled, but it seemed like it was Harry and what I saw earlier before they came. But what had happened here was orbs in the woods. I always read at night. I quit watching movies because I couldn't hear what was going on outside. So I started reading books. And so I thought I'd take a look out the window to check for lights. And yes, there was 2 lights moving around in the trees. I used my phone and got a picture of one, but the other darted behind a tree. But I could still kind of see it. I shut the blinds and went back to reading and never checked for them again, ever. I didn't want to see them. This time of year in Alaska, it wasn't dark, but maybe an hour and started lighting in out, so I stayed awake all night. When I was outside, it would make a yell from the woods behind the house. This didn't happen every day, but I started staying inside most all the time. Like I said, I'm just telling you things that happened. I tried to live and enjoy what summer of Alaska had left. One night I was reading and heard it a guttural growl towards the bathroom outside. Well, that scared me really bad. I sat and listened, but it didn't growl anymore, so I gave Fred a call. I was really kind of petrified and didn't know who to call, so I called Fred. He said, stay alert, stay away from the windows. So days later, I heard more strange screeches at night. It was always at night. And I just can't describe it. But my daughter Becky came out and helped me a lot with repairs around the place. We were sitting in the living room about 10 o'clock at night with their children playing. They were little, like 2 and 4, making noise. But over the noise, I heard a sharp whistle. And I asked Becky if she had heard it. And she just looked at me because if she did hear it, I think she was stunned. And then later, the whistle happened again. And she said, yes, I heard it. So that was enough. I said, we're leaving in the morning. Okay, by 8 a.m. the next morning, we were packing to leave, and something hit the roof hard in the back. Now, there wasn't any trees around the roof. It had to be something tall. I don't know. It sounded like something just smacked the roof really hard. My daughter took off and ran to the door and ran outside to see if she could see it. She ran out to the fire pit and jumped up on a bench to look on the roof. She said, I should have seen it. And I said, no, not as fast as a Bigfoot moves. It was a noise like it slapped the roof so hard. We waited for a little while, got the kids in the car in our bags, and left and took them back to North Pole. I returned to Kenny Lake. I came right back. I wasn't going to let anything scare me off. I cleaned up some things we had missed and stayed inside, mostly reading. I made it back to the cinnamon rolls. And when I go outside, I felt like something was watching me. Some days the squirrels and birds were out, and some days there wasn't. Believe me, I was ready to leave. It was August and rain. So I left. Cindy said she would come out with me in the spring. Now, I came back this year in August because I went to the Philippines and visited my brother for 3 months. And I came back. And when I came back, I could still hear wood knocks. And it didn't seem to be coming up around the house anymore. So I kept telling Becky about it. Well, uh, this past summer, I came back again. So Becky and Nora came with me and the kids, and they worked on the house and put up blink cameras. Now these cameras caught orbs around my car, and the wood knocks. There was a blink camera on the outhouse and one by my front door. So the blink camera on the outhouse would catch the wood knocks. When I drove up in my car one day, I didn't hear the knocks, but the blink camera picked them up. And so I sent them to Fred. And I've had lots of noises, orbs, and so Fred sends the information to Ryan, and Ryan is sorting it out on his computer. He's really good at it. And I saw an orb last night. That would be today, whatever the date is. And they're still here, but it seems like the orbs are curious. I don't know. The orbs went all the way around my expedition, and like they were looking inside my car, and that was creepy. But it's kind of an ongoing thing, Miguel, and that's all I have to tell you right now.
Okay, Carol. I really appreciate you for sharing that, and it breaks my heart that you're up there all alone and you're being harassed by the hairy people, these creatures, whatever you want to call them. And
yeah.
Why do you think they initially started to harass you and your husband when he was still alive?
Well, I think they were here because my husband was sick. He had dementia. And it's just like like Fred said, they seem to feed off your fear or feed off your vulnerability. And so when he died and I was here by myself, it got worse. And when Becky heard the thing thrown on the roof, or something hit the roof, it wasn't thrown, something hit it hard. And I heard many more things after I took Becky and the kids back to the North Pole. And I just got to the point that it's not bothering me so badly. I'm going to spend the winter here. And so, anyway.
Yeah. And whenever you heard the owl and the raven communicating back and forth, somebody told you that it could be an evil spirit?
Yeah. And it was a Native American that told me I have Native relatives in my family. And they don't speak of Bigfoot because it can bring in evil spirits. But now we never mentioned it being a Bigfoot to any of the relatives, but they say that it could be an evil spirit. Well, I'm pretty sure it was an evil spirit. So, yeah.
Yeah. I believe the orbs are the Sasquatch, and it's hard to say if they're coming in and out of portals or if it's just their spirit form. And I mean, it could be just a spirit and they're able to transform into a creature, but it's really hard to say. A lot of people believe that they're flesh and blood and, it's just an unknown species, which I do believe they are flesh and blood, but there is something unusual going on behind the activity. And I was glad to hear you talk about the orbs coinciding with the Sasquatch activity because, that's what I
Yeah.
experienced here. I was having Bigfoot activity. I was hearing the whistles. I was finding tree structures and having all kinds of strange activity. And then I seen the orbs while all that was going on. But
Well,
yeah,
the orbs, you see, I'm a born again believer in Christ, and I never thought anything like this would happen. But it's I think the orbs definitely have something to do with the Bigfoot. Uh, um, I've I've heard also the big loud thumps like something hits the ground. It's like a great big chair, a recliner had been dropped off the roof. And yeah, and when my brother spent the night here with his daughter, uh, they heard the knocking on the set of the house, and it was loud. And he came and told me, and I said, "Well, it happens. Well, it is, I think, a Bigfoot, but this was before he went to the Philippines, and there's lots of Philippine Bigfoot stuff too, and it seems to coincide with what we believe. But the orbs definitely have something to do with it. But when they come out of the orbs, they're flesh and blood. But I did see a black shadow that looked like a Bigfoot, but you could see through it. At the time, I was fooling with my remote for my TV, and I just wheeled around and I saw it pass the window. And yeah, that wasn't much fun. It's I don't know. I have a dog now, and he's a good guard dog.
yeah, that's good. So
Mhm.
the figure that went across the window was translucent, like see through?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, that's terrifying.
definitely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
your brother, you said he had an encounter. Was this in the Philippines?
Well, no, he owned a lodge in Myers Lake. It's about 150 miles from here. And he went out to walk his dog. Do you want to hear it? And he went out to walk his dog, and uh, a scream came. He said it sounded like an elephant and a lion and a screech. He said it was the loudest thing he ever heard. Can you hear me, Miguel?
Yeah, I can hear you. That sounds terrifying.
Okay.
I've heard similar around here, and it just sounds like a giant monster out in the woods. Like you said, an elephant mixed with like a lion.
Yeah, and since I've listened to all the videos, I can listen to. I mean, now I'm stuck on nothing but listening to the videos to see if I can hear anything that coincides with what I heard and saw, and I've heard plenty. that coincides with mine. And it's just, there's so many things happen that I can keep thinking of them, but
Yeah.
but this winter so far hasn't been too bad, except for the orbs, and the orbs are not coming up. Well, the expedition's only part 30 feet from my door. So I guess the orbs were pretty close.
Yeah. So they were pretty close to the Ford expedition?
Yeah. And then I saw one last night out in the woods. So.
Yeah. So they're still around the house.
Yeah. And, Ryan had mentioned that he thought they were curious. And I've heard they're spirits of the dead, which I think when we die, we go to be with Jesus. And so I think they're equal. I think they have something to do with Bigfoot. And my first Bigfoot encounter, do you want to hear it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear about it, Carol.
Okay. I was on the Alaskan highway. My family came out in 1966. And it was my dad, my mother, and my brother Rick. And I was riding in the front seat. My mother was in the middle. And we were coming up on a bridge, and it was called the Toad River Bridge in British Columbia. And Daddy slowed down to cross the bridge. And I looked to my right, and there was a creature hanging on the bridge, holding on to one of these huge beams. And his arms were very long. They wrapped all the way around the beam. He was lanky, and his feet and legs were long. And my mother saw it because I screamed, and Ricky saw it, and the eyes were evil, just yellow gold eyes, and the hair was reddish, and there was no hair on the face except the hair. In case anybody else has seen it, this hair, reddish hair, just stood out around his head. It stood straight out like it was framing the face. And it was a quick glance, but I got a very good look from like 4 feet, 5 feet away on that bridge. And my brother had his daughter draw a picture of it, and it described it to a T. But our family never told anyone because people would think it was crazy. And so we kept it within our family. And Daddy wanted to go back and see it. And I said, no, I don't ever want to see that thing again. So he kept driving. And I wish I had let him turn around. But he went on. And, he had been through World War II. So I think he thought Bigfoot probably wasn't near as bad as what he experienced during World War II. So that was that experience. But the eyes haunt me to this day. The eyes were the most evil demon looking. If I saw a demon, it was evil, evil, evil.
Can you describe what the eyes look like? Were they just
They
pitch
were,
black?
no, they were yellowish gold, and they were piercing, evil, mean, like, or it was either mean or it was very scared. He could have been frightened because there was a forest fire in the area. And I'm thinking he might have ran for the bridge and climbed up on it to get away from the smoke. But the smoke was everywhere. And uh, my mother even thought maybe he had been burned. But I don't know. The eyes is what scared me and haunts me to this day.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. And did it have a conical shaped head or was it like a round head?
It was round. As far as I could tell, it was round because the hair was sticking straight up, and I'm thinking it was some type of juvenile.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say why it was on the bridge hanging on there like that. And you can tell that from your description that it was angry. It got caught. Like maybe you said the woods
Yeah,
was on fire?
yeah. I mean, we couldn't see the fire. It was probably 8.5 miles away, maybe, probably more. But the smoke was kind of thick, and he was just holding on to the beams. His legs dangling down. He was all reddish, his whole body. And yeah, his face had a brownish color to it under his eyes. And but I never heard anybody say the hair stood out, but the hair was probably about 10 inches long around his head, sticking out around his face.
Yeah, that's terrifying. It seems like certain people are prone to having Sasquatch activity and maybe they mark certain people or they're attracted to them. And it seems like certain individuals will have a history of Bigfoot encounters.
My brother had a type of encounter when he was hunting, but I will get him to tell you about that, or either I'll get the story, the encounter, and but he was an avid hunter since he was 15 in Alaska, and he moved to Austin, Texas when he retired and sold his house and moved. And he's very interested in the Bigfoot, all of it. And there is Bigfoot in Texas. Uh, but, you know,
Yeah. Well, you're fine to tell his encounter if you want or if you want to save it for later whenever he decides to talk to me.
I'm going to wait and get the full interview because I don't want to tell part of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine with me. And a while back, you contacted me and you sent me some photos of some tracks and you told me about the activity that you were experiencing, the
Yeah,
harassment. And I didn't know what to do. I'm down here in the lower 48 and I kind of panicked. I'm like, man, I feel so bad for you. Like, I want to go out there and help you, but I don't know how. And I thought about it for some time and then it clicked. I was like, I'm going to call Fred from Alaska. He might be able to
yeah.
help out Carol. So I called Fred, and luckily he was able to go up there and help you out. I mean, and it's far away for Fred. You know, whenever I went to Alaska, I was like, let's go visit Carol. He's like, hey man, that's going to be a whole day drive right there. He's like, that's not
It's
close.
250 miles, but Miguel, to me, miles means nothing up here. because I drive 300 miles to visit my kids. So,
Yeah.
you know, I really wished you could have come out because the wood knocks persisted. And there's something else I want to tell you. While my family was here working on my house, uh, they were sitting out around the campfire. We were laughing and talking, having a great time. We had cooked hamburgers and steak and chicken. And we were all in our camp chairs. And I said, well, I have to run in the house for a minute. I'll be right back. And I wasn't gone 5 minutes. And they said they heard something scream like a dog being torn apart. And the dog squealing and screaming, and they said it was really bad. And they were all looking at me, and the firelight shone in some of them's eyes. And I said, it's Bigfoot. Do you want to stay out here? And they all headed for the door. And so, yeah, it was definitely scary for them. My family has heard, and they've seen the orbs, and they've seen the picture, which it was the back of the Bigfoot leading, and they've seen it, and they believe me. They don't want me out here by myself, but I'm just fine. I have a sister-in-law that doesn't live far away, and a niece, two nieces, and but if I hear something, I don't call them because they don't believe they should talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be dangerous to talk about, and you just never know if that attracts them, just like the Native Americans said. And if there is a connection with Bigfoot being spiritual and the spiritual being connected to the demonic, I don't like saying that word, but if it's connected to that, Christians say you shouldn't talk about it because it will let them in, which coincides with what the Native Americans said about Bigfoot and evil spirits. You don't talk about it because it will attract these things, which is true. Like, you don't want to just completely dismiss demons, but you also don't want to embellish them and always talk about them because it'll let them in.
No, right. You're very right.
Yeah.
Very right. So I try to ignore everything I can, and I sit in front of the TV at night and watch TV. And I have the dog. He will bark if something comes up. And I want to tell you the cameras and the bright lights. My daughter put up these bright lights all the way across the east of my house, and it lights up the yard out about 30 feet. And they're weatherproof. And I think the cameras and the lights has kept them things from beating on the house.
Yeah, I believe that. And it seems like these lights that you put up around the house and cameras kind of killed the activity a little bit, but they're still around, correct?
Yes, and I walked out. I had put the dog up, and in the house, I put him in his kennel because I was getting ready to eat, and I opened the door to go to the car, and I was standing on the top step, and I heard wood knocks, and these wood knocks just were kind of one after the other. And the blink camera caught the bill of my cap, and I was looking towards the wood nuts. And yeah, and that wasn't long ago. I mean, the wood nuts, if I would go outside right now and sit down but look fire, there would be wood knocks or whistles. The dog went out one day and he's got a very, very loud, obnoxious bark. And you could hear the whistle in between the barks. So it was close. It was close. Like, it was close.
What do you think the whistles mean? Because I've heard them as well. It's like they're trying to get your attention, or they're warning each other.
Yeah, well, it warns me to get in the house and just stay there. But I think the whistles are to get your attention. I think they're to say, I'm here and I'm not leaving.
Yeah. It could be a distraction as well. Maybe one's out in the open, and when they whistle, you look that way, and the one that was out in the open gets away.
Well, the first wood knocks I heard, I was in my yard in front of the house, and the wood knocking, it sounded like miles away, but I don't know. But it was clear enough I heard a wood knock, and then all the way over to maybe a mile away, I heard another wood knock, and that's when it all started. I was picking up sticks and carrying it in the house to build a fire. And yeah.
Yeah. That's terrifying. I'm sure they're like violent, loud wood knocks too.
Yeah. Well, actually, the wood knocks I got on the camera sound like they were kind of far away, but not. I mean, they weren't super like Fred said, hitting with a baseball bat. It wasn't like that. It was like I would take a stick and knock on a tree. About, well, the ones were really, really loud. When I was on the step, they were loud. But the ones the camera caught, I'm thinking maybe they were pretty loud, or the camera wouldn't have picked them up.
Yeah, very true. And they got a lot more land to work with in Alaska, so there could be a reason why they're further off and not right on you.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. And that's terrifying that you and your husband, when he was still alive, you heard something stomping around the house. And I know you guys have heard moose, and you know if your horses are out. And
yeah, the moose are pretty quiet in the snow. You don't even know they're there unless you look at them when they walk out the door and there's moose. We've had moose right up at our door. They just seem to like people in a way, but they're dangerous. So, but the stomping we heard was in the summer, and we had a corral full of horses out here. We had 15 or so at that time, and they used them for hunting moose and caribou. And so Trey called and said that I think horse is out because I hear him running around. And it was just thump, 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 thump. And so someone went out and checked, and there wasn't any. The gates were up. No horses were out.
Yeah.
So Terry, excuse me, I have to get
You're fine.
Terry, Terry never really, he never thought of Bigfoot. I didn't either. When he was alive, I never thought of Bigfoot. And maybe I would have put more thought into it. But he was here, and he would go out with a gun and look around, but he could never see anything.
Yeah. And I think Fred's right about these things feeding off fear. And whenever I had my encounters, I was in a bad situation. I feel like they could sense that. Like they can sense that you're in
Yeah.
distress or something's wrong. And, my encounters were somewhat positive, but at the same time, I was pretty close to my house to where if I had to take off running, I feel like I could have made it to the front door and got inside. But it's a different story when you're out there.
Yeah. I mean, I according to what they say about bears, don't run. Well, I've lived up here all my life. You might say since I was 18. And so I thought, when I saw that little brown thing whenever I was cleaning out the cabin, I thought, oh, maybe that's a bear. And so I picked up the shotgun and walked to the house. I didn't run, but if I saw a Bigfoot, I don't think I could outrun him.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it was just because they were like walking away from me and they seemed like they were spooked is why I wasn't scared. But if they would have made one move towards me, I probably would have took off running.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Brown style. Let's see.
No, it's not funny at all. It's just the thought of running. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, for sure. And that,
Unless they're tracking you like they did Ryan. He wanted to run, I think, but he held his cool. And that paced him out there.
yeah, fight or flight definitely kicks in no matter what. And those tracks that you sent me, those are some of the best tracks I've ever seen. And
I've got more tracks.
yeah, you'll have to send me all the photos that you got or anything that you want to share on this episode. And whenever I was in Alaska, I talked with Fred. He said that they saw the orb, that they went out there, and he wanted to go towards it. And Ryan said, yeah, maybe we should go inside the house, which is probably a good thing because the Native Americans said that if you follow these orbs, they could lead you to your demise.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't even want to look at them anymore. Happenstance is the only reason I got those on the blank camera, because I would have been asleep, and something made an awful scream, and the dog was here in the house, and it was 3:30 in the morning. I was asleep, and the dog barked, and I didn't pay much attention. Well, I do, but you could hear that thing, whatever it was, screaming, and that dog would bark, and then that thing would scream. And Ryan is going to figure out what that was. I don't know.
Yeah, that's terrifying. And the brown creature that you saw that you thought was a grizzly bear at first, did you see any features on the creature? Like, could you describe how big it was?
No, it looked like a skunk.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't. It was 4.5 feet tall. And when I saw it, I actually get chills. My hair stood up. And I thought it was going to come after me. It was 70, 80 feet away in the woods. But I didn't know what it was. And that I'm pretty sure that's when I started staying in the house. And something else. Oh, there's so much stuff. I got a picture. It looks like two juveniles. They were in the bushes right by the outhouse now. I had walked out to the outhouse and I heard something in the bushes. So I just turned around and went back in the house. And I got the camera and took a picture. And I sent it to Cindy and Becky. And they don't mind me using their names. And they said, well, is it gone? I looked out there. I said, yeah, I think it's gone. And so Cindy said, well, go back and take another picture. Make sure it's not just a tree or, a shadow. So I just went out and took a picture and came back in. I didn't really, look very well. And when I looked at the picture, there was a head of a smaller Sasquatch looking over the bushes. And it couldn't have been over 4.5 feet tall. And there was two of them.
Yeah.
One was to the right behind a spruce. And now you can tell they were black, coal black, and they were together. The head, my brother in Texas saw the picture of the head, and he said, Carol, you better start reading your Bible. I said, I do read my Bible. He said, that's evil.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrifying. Most of the people from Alaska that I've talked to don't want anything to do with these things, and especially the natives, they're terrified of them and they don't even want to talk about them. And that's how it is in the lower 48 as well. They just don't want to talk about this phenomenon. And, they all say the same thing. If you talk about them, they will show up. And it may not be like today, tomorrow, but maybe they will someday. So you just never know.
I saw one on that bridge, and Ricky did, and my mom. And I mean, that's three people that saw the same terrifying thing. And if Fred's right, maybe we are marked. I don't know.
Yeah, very well could be. And I would like to come up there and visit you sometime. I think it would be possible, but I don't know if you want the company. And
yeah, of course. I want everybody here that can help.
yeah, if you got a room for me to stay at your place, I think that would work out pretty well because there's no hotels near the area.
I've got 2 bedrooms. Yeah.
Okay.
And I got a big living room. It's full of firewood.
Yeah. How far are you from Anchorage? Like 4 hours or so?
250 miles. 3.5.
Yeah, like 3.5 or 4. Okay.
Well, yeah.
When would be the best time to show up there? I know the winter would be pretty rough.
No, you don't want to come in the winter. You want to come in July.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And I think whenever I was in Alaska last time, you were like in Tennessee or the Philippines. I can't remember.
In the Philippines. Yeah, and they want me to stay longer, but I was so homesick. Oh, I couldn't stay away.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my brother wants to be here. He wants to see it, but
Okay. Well, I'll try to get in contact with Fred and Ryan and try to get that set up as soon as possible. And yeah, we'll try to go July. That'll give us plenty of time to plan everything out
yeah,
and
yeah,
make it all work out. Hopefully, if I stay for like a week, I think that should be enough time.
that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you kind of have to live there to experience it because this stuff doesn't happen every day and it kind of just happens.
Oh, yeah, you can't just go out there. You can't just come here for 2 days and expect to. And, I'm going to tell you this. It's not just me. When the kids were all around the fire, I call them kids, they were around the fire laughing and talking, and I heard that awful sound like a dog being torn apart. Uh, yeah, they came in the house. They really had come in.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
terrifying. We hear that here in Missouri too. Sometimes it just sounds like a dog and sometimes even a deer is just being torn apart. Like you can tell
yeah,
something's killing it.
yeah. That picture of the head, well, the body, the head sticking up over the bushes, it has ears on it, like a bear, but it's not there. And I'm gonna tell you, the first picture I took was very clear, and then I started sending it to everybody, and you could still see the black head, but you couldn't see that face. Now Ricky has that picture. I sent it to him right away, and Hayden, and they have it. But you could see the face, and it was not a bear, but it had ears on it like a bear.
Mm, that's that's scary. I've gotten a report of that here in Missouri, and a guy talks about that same creature. It's almost like a Bigfoot, but it's got like a bear head and like a snout. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah,
He called it the
yeah.
bear people.
I don't know what it is. I just want to be here in my house and be left alone. But I welcome anybody that, well, I welcome you and Fred and Ryan and whoever else I can trust to be here. Not just anybody that would drive up, but I trust y'all.
Okay.
And there's playing room here, and there's an extra bedroom, and there's playing room in the living room with your cots.
Okay.
So,
Well, I appreciate that. And you said something slapped the side of the house and even the roof at one point.
oh, a lot.
A lot.
The roof was the scariest part when Becky was here. She heard the roof being slapped, and we were ready to leave. I said, that's the Bigfoot because nothing else is tall enough to do that. There's no trees back there, just 1 inch saplings that they cut down. They cut them all down. So there wasn't anything for them to hide behind. But I'm still surrounded by trees.
Yeah, that's terrifying that you live up there by yourself and you seem to manage pretty well with your shotgun and your dog. You're doing well.
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I'll be
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, it breaks my heart and I wish there was more that I could do, but I'm certainly going to try to put together a trip and make my way up to Alaska to visit you.
Okay, and the McCarthy Road is not far. It's 20 miles to the McCarthy Road, and it's Fred's made a lot of encounters up that road. So I also saw Bigfoot out by Paxson, and that's 160 miles. I don't know. I was headed back from Fairbanks, and I pulled over to look for moose. And I saw this Bigfoot walking. I have a picture of him, but I just took it on my phone. Looks like I can see the daylight between his legs. It wasn't a bear, it was a Bigfoot. And my brother said there were sightings through there. People would come in, even tourists, to Myers Lake, and tell him they saw a Bigfoot cross the road in that area.
Yeah. It seems like a common thing. I mean, it's really rare to experience it, but in Alaska, it seems more common than the lower 48 to have a Bigfoot encounter. Like, it's pretty common knowledge. Whenever I was up there, people would talk about Bigfoot or the hairy man, and they'd also talk about little people. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, I never thank God, Lord, I've never seen little people. I'll be gone if I see that. I mean, Bigfoot enough.
Yeah, Bigfoot's enough, but once you add little people and Moose Man to the picture, then you really get confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for sure.
So after the snow melted, it seemed like the activity got worse. Why do you think that's the case?
I think they hibernate more, but I'm not sure because I haven't spent a whole winter since Terry died, so I don't know. So I'm gonna find out. I'm here to do exploring. Hopefully, nothing's gonna, get me and kill me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'll be praying for you, and I hope the activity stops and they quit harassing you.
I pray all the time, and I prayed the other night. That thing hit the wall the other night. There were tracks, but the snow pile pushed up a berm, and I couldn't get around there. We got like 2.5 feet, and so I didn't call Fred. I sent him a message and woke him up and told him there's something tapping on the house. It was tapping. And so I just started praying. And it left. It was gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrifying. And the whistles that you've heard, are they sharp, loud whistles like a...
Yeah, just like that. Yeah. And you could hear it when the dog was barking, that it's on a blink camera, got it. And there's chatter on the blink camera on the outhouse that the house didn't get. And that is the weirdest stuff I ever heard. It was gobbledygook. I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the Ron Moorhead Sierra sounds? Did it sound anything like that?
Oh, yeah. I've heard that. I haven't heard anything like that except on that blink camera on the outhouse. There was something similar to that. But I don't go out in the woods. Now I won't even go out. I won't even go behind the house, out in front, the side. I won't go out in those woods. It's just something really foreboding about it. Just stops me. I can't go out. And normally I could take a walk and go out through the woods for a little ways. And I mean, My husband and I hunted up here. Mm, We got married in 72. We hunted and hunted with his brother and his horses, 4-wheelers, our son-in-law, and family. We all went hunting, berry picking. We always kept our guns really close for bear, but we never even surmised there might be a Bigfoot.
Yeah. And do you think this activity that you've experienced is the reason why people go missing, and in Alaska in particular, because so many people go missing in Alaska?
Oh yeah, I do. Now I do. I never knew before there was people went missing that went hunting by themselves. Um, a man, and I don't know his name. That's been many years ago, and 30 years ago. And he went hunting and he found his camp. His food was on a plate. All his stuff was there. They never found him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrifying. And as long as you keep the good Lord close and you keep praying, I think you'll be okay. And I mean,
I'm not afraid. I'm
yeah,
not. I'm not afraid anymore. The dog makes a big circle. He is a good watchdog, Australian Shepherd, and that dog can jump 6 feet in the air. And he makes a big circle around the house, and I think it aggravates whatever's there. So now it's wood knocking and whistling. He can't come up around the house, except that tapping on the wall was done on the dark side of the house. I don't have lights over there. That tapping I heard. Yeah. That I need lights there. I need a camera.
yeah. And I saw that you had the inside of your door boarded up. That's
Yeah, Becky did that. She put that up there for me.
yeah. Have they ever jiggled the door handle or try to come in?
I don't know, but you're the only one I've told this to. The doorknob is looser, and when I go out, it won't lock anymore. I have to lock the deadbolt. And yeah, it's like it's been pushed away from the frame a little bit, but the deadbolt still works, but it's not going in near as far. So I don't know if I'll have to have my grandson come back out here and do something. But that board is across the door, not that it can keep out a Bigfoot. I know it can't. If they want to get in, they can get in. But I just pray all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And that's the thing. A lot of people say that Bigfoot are nice and they're not evil like some people say. But if that was the case, they would not be trying to scare you. I mean, I think there are some good ones. Maybe it's like the females and the little ones that, go their own way or leave you little gifts. But anything that's good and godly wouldn't be banging your house, wood knocking,
No,
and
no.
yeah, landing on the roof, things like that. Nothing good is going to try to scare
What do you think the reason for more Bigfoot sightings?
I mean, it could be that there's more people, more technology, and there's more access to like these conservation areas or national forests. But if there is a rise in activity, it could be because, they're protecting the land, the wildlife. And there was a point where, they weren't really protecting the animals. and
Mhm.
you didn't really see that many deer. At least that's how it was in Missouri. At one point, all the white-tailed deer were gone. Like if somebody saw a white-tailed deer, it was in the newspaper. But
Right.
if it wasn't for these laws, there probably wouldn't be bald eagles, there wouldn't be owls, there wouldn't be deer because people would have killed them
Mhm.
all. That could be
But we
one
had
reason.
it.
But another reason could be in the Bible, it says that during the flood, the Nephilim were killed, but not all of them. And in the end times, they will return. And that could be maybe what we're seeing is, they say that
Yeah.
Satan's building an army, a demonic army. And
Mhm.
maybe that's what it is. It talks about
Mhm.
unleashing the beast. What is the beast? Are these things the beast? I mean, it's hard to say.
Right. I mean, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because people always said, you better watch what you say or better watch what you do or else the boogeyman's going to get you. And, we used to just kind of roll our eyes and be like, okay. But, when you experience this activity, that's kind of what it is. It's like, you better not talk about the hairy man or else he'll come and get you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what they said. Like,
Mhm.
they take women and children. In Alaska, I think I've heard tales like where Bigfoot carries around a basket and they'll put like kids in there and carry them off, never to be seen again.
Oh my goodness! When my grandkids were here, just babies. I, oh my gosh! I kept them right with me. Becky was working on the cabin, and I just took the kids in the house, and I looked. Becky was putting a tarp over the cabin because the roof was leaking. And we just didn't have time or money to put a new roof on the storage cabin. It's 12 by 12. And she was out there by herself putting that tarp up with a ladder. And I kept watching her and keeping an eye on her. And the kids were in the house. And I looked out and she wasn't there. And I told the kids stay in the house. And they're just little. And first thing it did was open the door and follow me. And so I looked around the left side of the house, and Becky was out in that road looking up and down. And she never said anything, but I know she heard something. And, uh, people don't want to be tagged as believing in Bigfoot, but Becky believes now. And my brothers believe, and Cindy believes, and that I've had trouble. And the screams is what ran me off uh, until I got the lights. Um, I mean, the lights and the cameras definitely keep them back.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I hear. And with I don't know if you ever listen to David Politis with the missing 411. A lot of cases, people are walking with their family, and they keep their kids close by, and they look away for 1 second and look back, and the kid's gone. And that
Um,
happens a lot. So even if you watch your kids, they're liable to go missing. You turn your head just one time. It's like,
well, I don't camp. I quit camping in the tents 15 years before he died, or maybe 10. Uh, we made a homemade trailer to take hunting, and we'd stay in the trailer. And it wasn't real pretty, made out of chipboard and plywood, but you know, we felt safe. And uh, Becky was we had a bed and she had a bed, and a big cold wind came up, and there was 12 people in our little camp trailer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's freaky. The fact that you went from Arkansas to Alaska, that's a big change. And believe it or not, Arkansas has a lot of Bigfoot activity, and I think that's one
Yeah,
of the missing
yeah.
411 hotspots is in Arkansas. For some reason, there's a lot of missing people in the Ozarks, but Alaska is a
Yes.
whole nother level.
All right, let me tell you while we're on here. I heard one of your videos that talked about those hyenas and in the Ozarks. Is it hyenas? Hyenas,
The
I
hyenas,
believe. Yeah.
yeah, I think they call them hellhounds, and it's kind of like a pit bull mixed with a wolf, mixed with a hyena.
Okay.
It's a strange
Okay.
thing. I've seen one before, and it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
It's my mom and dad, to make sure, they moved down and bought 10 acres of land and a house in the Ozarks. It's not far. We've been to Nick's and up in there in Branson. And we bought some land from them and built a house on it for summer. And they come back here and Terry works. But um, we had a big yard. Terry kept it mowed really pretty. And Becky had chickens in a chicken house out back. She loved chickens and ducks. And our little dog was like pit bull and something mixed. And we heard him barking out, but the chicken couldn't move. It was dark, and we had a bright light out there. And this thing was chasing our dog. It looked like a hyena, short legs in the back and long legs in front. Area, I got it backwards. Anyway, that thing had black hair on top and tannish hair everywhere else. And Terry went out and fired his gun off up in the air and it left. But we thought it was something escaped from that uh, exotic animal farm up there in Missouri. And but we got homesick and finally came back to Alaska and did away with that. My dad, we left. And, you know, but anyway, that thing, we never forgot what that looked like. And it was way bigger than our dog.
Yeah. Did it have longer hair around its neck like a
Yeah,
lion?
on the back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably the same thing. Yeah, that's freaky right there. I'm glad to hear you say that because, I kind of feel alone whenever I mention that. I'm trying to convince people of Bigfoot and
No,
then I start talking about
no,
all these other things, but they really did happen. I wouldn't talk about them if they didn't.
well, no, I wouldn't think I don't lie. I'm not going to make up anything. But that thing it was something else. And we thought sure it escaped from some exotic animal farm. I think that's in Missouri. There used to be one there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think there's a few. Whenever I was in
but
Alaska, there's this dark feeling, like this dark presence that you feel when you're out there. And I don't really know
mhm,
how to describe it, but it just feels like you're being
mhm.
watched, like the barometric pressure is like really high. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, it's different. And when the orbs were around here, when Ryan and Fred were here, Ryan Fred said he felt it. And I felt it because my birds and squirrels were gone. And they haven't been back. I only had one squirrel this summer. And I called him my alert squirrel because he was up in the tree. And that's before I had a dog. And that squirrel would start chattering. I'm telling you, and I'd go and open the door and look out. I couldn't see a thing. But a squirrel will chatter when something comes up. And he was chattering, but it was only one squirrel.
Yeah, the animals will give you signs.
Yeah. Well, I was in August. I was really happy to get back from the Philippines before summer ended, and I really enjoyed it, except for the things that went on since then. Um, and a friend of mine don't always have time. They're busy to come out and check. And I mean, just to sit outside and build a fire, if you could do that and no move, don't take any pictures, you'll hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have
Yes,
no doubt.
my blink camera's catching stuff, but it the side of the house where the knocks were coming from, some of them were right in my bedroom back there, but the one knocks when I in August were on that one side, and I told Becky, is we're going to have to put up some lights or something. And but she thought the blink cameras and ordered them off Amazon. And man, they're a godsend.
Yeah, they seem to be working pretty well. You sent me a video of the orbs, and you could see them out there moving, kind of dancing around.
Oh, yeah, it's the craziest stuff I ever saw. And Ryan thought that the ones they saw were just curious, but I don't know what they are. So I don't want them here.
Yeah, they go hand in hand with Bigfoot activity. So if you're seeing orbs, there's probably Sasquatch out there.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Sasquatch has something to do with it. I have a picture of a hairy thing you can see through on my blink camera from the Fred might put that up. I can send it to you, though. I'll send it. But you can see it through it except for one spot. And then on the right side is white, like an orb. And listen now, that's 8:30 in the morning. It's daylight. And well, it was then. Now it's not. But the dog was barking at it. But I couldn't see it. I didn't know it was there until I looked at the blink camera. And the hair, it looked like hair on it. You could see through. And but it was almost see through, except for on the one side looks like an orb. So that just done it for me. They're coming out of orbs, and when they come out, they're flesh and blood, or they can be translucent.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think the dog will be your best tool for knowing that the Sasquatch, the hairy people, are around.
Yeah, I just hope it don't kill him.
Yeah, yeah, they're known to do that. So keep him close, and just be aware of your surroundings, and just try to do what you can day by day.
Yeah. Well, I've heard I know what a gun is, so if I have to be outside for a while, I'll take the shotgun. But I do have wood piled right by the door, and I'm thinking I'm going to pay one of the teenagers to bring that in the house. I have my living room piled full of firewood, so I don't have to go out. But I have two toil stoves. I just bought a new one, and it keeps the living room warm. And so I don't have to go outside. The only time I go out is when I'm going somewhere, getting in the car. But that thing that it would knock when I pulled in the driveway and shut the engine off, you could hear the wood knock. It's like, hello, I'm here.
Yeah. They're definitely intelligent. They're able to plan, and they're very tactical.
Yeah, well, the ones you saw in your yard were very bold.
Yeah.
You see one walked across your yard. Then didn't you say that?
Yeah, after I had an
Mhm.
encounter with like a 7 footer, give or take, and a little juvenile about, I don't know, that was in the summertime. Later in the fall, the whole group came up to the edge of the woods, right at the edge of the yard. And then I saw a
Yeah,
big white one walk across a clearing. And
yeah.
it was spooky because as a Bigfoot researcher, that's kind of the stuff you're looking for. But whenever that happened, I didn't want to go outside.
You don't want to go out unless just run to your car and leave. But I, yeah, people, family thinks, Mom, you shouldn't stay out there. But I said, no, I'm okay. And Becky put up all of the lights. Bless her heart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
She
a good
was,
thing she did that.
Cindy had the lights around her house. Now, when I was staying at Cindy's house on orbit or two, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I knocked on her bedroom door and woke him up, and I said, "You got to see this." And it was a fairly good sized orb, about like a basketball, and they looked out the window and they could not believe it. We still don't know what it was. Who knows? And that was in Fairbanks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's terrifying. And it's a good thing they were able to experience it. So it kind of validated what you've been talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And Jacob, my grandson, and his dad were hunting and saw a Bigfoot across the road in Fairbanks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, outskirts of Fairbanks, they have to hunt with a bow. They can't use a gun there. But they, yeah, hmm yeah,
Yeah, that's terrifying. It was about probably a year after I had that encounter where the whole group came up to the edge of the yard. I was at a buddy's property who was having encounters in the national forest, and they
hmm
came up that night, and I stood in front of one for probably about an hour or more. I mean, I couldn't see him because he was in the woods and I was right there at the edge of the yard, but he was standing there like wood knocking, breaking trees and limbs. And I stood my ground because I told myself I wasn't going to run this time.
You're brave. You're brave because the first thing was would knock him in the house. So yeah, for a few times I just left and went back to Becky's in North Pole,
Yeah.
and Becky believed me. Um, there were skeptics in the family, but I said, well, seeing is believing. Um, I don't even have to see it to believe it. I've seen two of them. Well, I saw three counting one at the backs. And
Yeah, that's what it takes. Sometimes you have to see it to believe it, and that's how it was for me. I had a bunch of experiences before I actually had my encounters, and I always wrote them off as like mountain lions or trespassers or, strange lights in the woods that I can't describe.
yeah, yeah. And um, I have to tell you this. My grandpa, my granddaddy, I call him granddaddy, in Arkansas. I was raised in Eudora, Arkansas. It's in the southeast corner. And my granddaddy was an overseer of some cattle that was over behind the levee on the treed part before you get to the Mississippi River. And he stayed in this house back there by himself. And he kept telling us he sees a light. Now we call them orbs. Back then, he said, there's light, there's light. I see it all the time. and it's back off of that road, and it's a low hill back there, and it comes over that hill, and it just dances around. And so his first cousin was the sheriff there at Eudora, and he came out and spent the night. And my granddaddy had horses, and they would go fox hunting, and they didn't catch the fox; they just let the dogs to hear the dogs chase them. And he saw the light too. And then another one of my granddaddy's friends, they came down off the levee, and they could see up on the hill, and they could see the bright light inside my granddaddy's house. And he didn't have electricity; all he had was kerosene lamps. And they went down another little embankment and back up, and the light was gone. So they're everywhere, and they've been here. I mean, I was a kid. I was like fifth grade, and they've been around for a long, long time.
Yeah. I appreciate you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, that's something else. I mean, he never knew what it was. He finally bought land up at Eudora, out from Eudora, where he lived, and he was glad to get away from the lights. But the house he bought was haunted. It just seems like people are dogs sometimes, but evil. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. It seems like there's something dark going on, and maybe one day we'll find out.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, I believe so.
The lights and the camera are really good. And I'm going to get some more lights up and some more cameras up. And I might catch a picture one, but I also hope they stay away. But I do believe, since you can't knock on my house on that one side where the camera can get it, I believe it could knock in there, and it came around the side where it was dark.
Yeah.
So I got to get some lights up around there. Becky is in Tennessee, and Nora, Becky bought a house down there. Her and Mike bought a house down there, and they had a big. Becky sent me a video. She's got blank cameras up on her concrete porch, and a huge black bear walked right across her porch. That camera got it coming and going. Those cameras are really good.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to have to get some.
You got to.
Yeah.
You got to. And maybe you'll get a picture of your Bigfoot. They're black, and you can screw one on each side of your house. And I don't think there's a light on them, but they're okay. They take pictures in the dark. Now, if I unplug my lights and motion goes in front of that camera, that light will come on.
Yeah. Yeah, they seem to be working good. So I would get more and possibly some more motion lights, and I think you'll be set up pretty good for the activity that you're experiencing.
Yeah, I got to get help. I might get Gabe out here. My grandson, he's 22. He comes out and helps me. But he lives in Fairbanks and works. So he has to come on a Friday and get back Saturday night. So if I get some lights and cameras, maybe he can come out and put them on.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully you can. Okay. Do you have any questions for me before we wrap up the phone call?
No, I can't think of any right this minute. I'm sure I'll think of some.
No, you're fine.
And I'm hoping y'all can come out here and survive.
Yeah, me too. We'll try to make it happen. I'll make some phone calls and some arrangements, and we'll see if we can get some dates set.
Okay, yeah, I'll save some money, give you for your ticket.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So,
And I just want to be able to help you out, and it breaks my heart that you're up there being harassed by the hairy people, and you don't have anyone else but your shotgun and your dog, and you know that's what I do. So I just feel bad for being so far away, and I just want to make it
yeah,
happen.
thank you. And I don't have any men around. So I have a nephew in Carper Center. He probably don't believe in Bigfoot. So they're going to be shocked. I'm going to send this video to all of them.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good. And you did an excellent job at describing the experiences that you encountered. And I'm really glad that you decided to do the podcast because whenever we first spoke, I think you were a little, hesitant about talking about these experiences. And, it took a while, but I'm glad I finally got you on. I really appreciate it.
Well, I wanted to, but I have a nervous condition and my voice shakes. And so I didn't know if you could hear me very well.
No, you're fine. You did excellent. I get nervous too, and I kind of stutter and lose track of my thoughts, and I hesitate a lot.
You're a master at interviewing people. Yeah, you're good.
Well, I appreciate that. And if it wasn't for my encounters, I wouldn't be able to do this. I know there's a lot of people that start podcasts that have never seen them, but that's the reason I do it.
Yeah. And I appreciate them doing it. They get some valid stories.
Yeah, me too. They're getting the word out, so that's all that matters.
I like to call them encounters, not stories. Stories sometimes aren't true. So,
yeah, I call them encounter stories.
Well, if you count the two smaller ones that were out here, that didn't even scare me. I should have been scared. I mean, I was, but it was like they were 4.5 feet tall. And behind them bushes, well, normally I took the chainsaw out there and cut some bushes down. Mm-hmm. And my daughters were raised out here in the bush. So they had a small chainsaw. And they cut all them saplings. Gabe had cut them from behind the house because that Bigfoot could come right up there. He cut all them, and then Becky and Nora got out there and cut off all the stubs so the water truck can get in and get me water. Yeah. And then what else? I was going to tell you something else. Oh. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like a buffer zone between the forest and the cabin.
The trees behind the house were all saplings, just like 1 inch. And some of them were 2 or 3 inches, but they got them cut down because they've been growing for 4 years, 4 summers. And they needed to come down because I could see where the Bigfoot ran. He broke them trees off. And I mean, I know exactly what tracks are. I know where the bear track is. I know where the moose track is. And the rabbit tracks in the snow, I know what they are. I know what tracks are. But the big animals are the most important. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes when you experience activities such as them slapping on the house and you go out there and you don't find any tracks, I think the orbs could be an explanation as to why people don't find tracks or why people follow tracks and they just disappear.
I'm here to get information. I'm not here. I mean, I'm alone all the time. My sister-in-law took me out for my birthday to eat, but I see nobody, and unless I go to the store and talk to people, and so I'm alone. But I'm okay, and I know how to use the shotgun. And Gabe set that shotgun where he said all you got to do, Grandma's jack shell in it, and then you got 5. But if I get off one shot, I'll never get off another one from.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you be sure to take care of yourself, and if you need any assistance, just feel free to ask if you have any questions, and I'll be praying for you, Carol. I'm always thinking about you, and
Pray for me on your list because I need it, and I'm praying. And when that starts happening on the house, like, hey, look, I'm here in the dark, and I thought, you son of a gun. And I started praying. I said, Jesus, you get rid of it. You put the Holy Spirit here. You put angels here. You get rid of it. It was gone in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's good. The power of prayer can do wonders.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Carol.
Okay.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you going to say something else?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you get back with your dog. I know you got him put up right now, and I'm sure you got things you need to do. So I really appreciate you for taking the time to tell these encounters here on Sasquatch Theory.
Thank you for listening. I sure appreciate. After all these years, Fred and Ryan come out, but after all these years, I'm getting the word out because I've tried sites before and they never even answered me. So,
yeah. Well, God connects certain people for a reason, and you should be proud of yourself. You shared these true encounters that really happen, and they're going to help other people out. And one day in the future, people will look back on these podcasts and say, you know what, these people were right. We're going to try to learn as much as we can from them.
Oh, yeah. 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 I'll send you the picture of the back one going through the woods. I'll send you some pictures.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me, and I really appreciate everything you did, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future and possibly meeting up with you.
Okay. When are you going to put this video out? Do you know?
I'm going to try to put it up this week.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you, and you take care of yourself, okay?
All
right, goodbye. All right, Carol, thank you once again for sharing your Bigfoot encounters and experiences with me, and it is certainly terrifying to run into the hairy people. Most of the people that I've spoken with from Alaska want nothing to do with these things, and they're just not good. Maybe people's opinions down here in the lower 48 are different, but from what the Alaskan people say, the hairy man is a dangerous thing to run into. So just know that. As Fred from Alaska says, they're not wanting to swap berries with you. So maybe they're different down here in the lower 48. Maybe they're more used to people, and it could be, like I said before, we don't have as harsh conditions, and they have been acclimated to people, possibly. There's just a lot more wilderness up there in Alaska, and I think they rarely run into people. Even though they know what they are, they're able to keep away from humans, and when they run into them, they are not very happy about it. The tracks that you found were very interesting, and I was honestly impressed. A lot of times people find what they call to be tracks, and I don't know, it's just really hard to say. A lot of times it could be a boot print or just an impression in the ground, but in this case you can see toes, and they look very large to me. So good job, Carol. Good thing you're always keeping an eye out, and yeah, just make sure you watch your back. make sure you got your boomstick with you and your dog nearby. Keep that dog close, because from what I hear, these things like to take dogs, and a lot of times they'll just go missing. I almost feel like you are connected with the phenomenon in some way, shape, or form. It seems like it could be possible these things have followed you and your family around since the time you left Arkansas. A lot of people talk about being marked, tagged, or even the hitchhiker effect. I feel like these things can follow you from one area to another, and there seems to be something supernatural behind it. Of course, if you talk to Bigfoot researchers, they will deny that because they haven't experienced it. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for listening today and sticking around till the end. It really means a lot, guys. So thank you very much. And if you guys can, please like the podcast and follow the channel. Until the next one, take care and be safe out in the forest, everyone.